I'm Max, and I need to share my story. It all began when I was 16. My parents, David and Patricia, left me at a bus station on purpose. They thought it would teach me a lesson, see how resourceful I could be. But I never went back home. Instead, 20 years later, they found me again, not because they cared, but because they needed something. Money, help, power. When I said no, they didn't just try to guilt-trip me. They turned everyone against me, spread lies, and tried to ruin everything I had built. The humid August air clung to me as I leaned against the taxi window, half asleep, with my earbuds blocking out the city noise. My parents were in the front, arguing about something I'd stopped caring about long ago. We had just visited my older sister, Lisa, at her university. The trip was typical. Lisa pretending everything was fine, Mom making snide remarks about how I should be more like her, and Dad barely acknowledging us unless he was giving orders. I was used to it. Just another day with my family, another test, another lesson. As the taxi slowed down, I opened my eyes. A run-down bus station sat off the main road, looking ancient and nearly deserted. Dad told the driver to pull into the parking lot near some old snack machines. "Go get me a soda," he said without even glancing at me. I pulled down my earbuds and blinked. "What?" Mom turned around, giving me that fake smile that never reached her eyes. "Get your father a drink, sweetie, and grab me a sparkling water." I sighed, opened the door, and stepped out. The heat hit me like a wall as I walked to the cracked asphalt. I didn't bother arguing. It never did any good. The snack machines were next to the bus station entrance, their faded stickers peeling from years in the sun. I pulled out a crumpled $10 bill from my wallet and bought their drinks. The machine struggled before dropping a lukewarm soda and a bottle of sparkling water. I turned around, expecting to see the taxi waiting. It wasn't there. The parking lot was empty. For a second, my mind couldn't process what I was seeing. Maybe they had moved. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mom read, "Let's see how you manage to get home." Think of it as a problem-solving exercise. My stomach dropped. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. My fingers shook as I pressed the call button. Straight to voicemail. I tried again and again, each time hearing the same empty beep. I stood there, holding the soda so tightly the plastic creaked. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out the distant sound of a bus horn. They weren't coming back. It should have shocked me, devastated me. But instead, a strange calmness came over me. This wasn't the first time they had done something like this. When I was 13, they locked me out in a thunderstorm because I forgot to bring in the mail. At 14, they made me walk miles home from school in the rain for missing the school van. This was just another lesson, another messed up way of showing me I wasn't important. I looked around the bus station. A few people were moving around, not noticing the 16-year-old boy standing there with only his wallet and a growing anger. I wasn't going to wait for them. I wasn't going to play their game. I checked my pocket. $90, saved from my summer job. Not much, but enough. The old lady behind the ticket window barely looked up as I approached. "Where's the closest train station?" I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She pointed down the street. "About 3 miles that way." I nodded, already walking. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. "Don't even think about calling your aunt. Your father insists you need to figure this out on your own." I blocked the number. Then I did the exact opposite of what they told me. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Max." I swallowed hard. "Aunt Laura, can you help me?" My voice was steady, but inside I was falling apart. "Max." Aunt Laura's voice was sharp with worry. "Where are you?" I swallowed hard, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I was standing alone at a bus station, abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me. My heart pounded, but my voice came out surprisingly calm. "They left me, Aunt Laura. They just drove off." There was a pause, then a sharp intake of breath. "Stay right there, honey. I'm coming to get you." That was 20 years ago. Now I stood in my corner office at Apex Incorporated, my company, looking out over the Portland skyline. The city was alive, the streets below buzzing with activity, but in my office, it was just me and the past creeping back. My phone sat on my desk, the screen still lit with missed calls. 42 of them. I ignored the unknown numbers. My eyes fixed on the only one that mattered, Lisa, a name I hadn't seen in 2 decades. My stomach twisted as I pressed play on the first voicemail. Max, please answer. Mom and Dad found you. They need your help. My grip on the phone tightened. That name, that tone. She still called me Max, like we were kids, like nothing had happened. I exhaled sharply and deleted the voicemail. The next one was just crying. By the third, she sounded desperate. Max, please, you don't understand. They're in trouble. Just talk to me. I put the phone down before I could throw it against my desk. They had found me, and I knew exactly what it meant. I walked away from them 20 years ago with nothing but a bus ticket and a fierce need to survive. I worked 2 jobs, lived in a tiny apartment that always felt damp, and fought my way through college. Every part of Apex Incorporated had been built with the life they tried to destroy. Now, just when I was finally free, they wanted back in. I sat down, my hands trembling slightly as I ran them through my hair. My reflection in the window was calm, collected, but my mind was a mess. I knew this day would come. I just hadn't expected it to be now. I scrolled through my voicemails until I saw a name I hadn't heard in 20 years. David Thompson, my father. I hesitated for a second before pressing play. The moment his voice filled the room, something inside me went cold. You think you're too good for us now? His voice was slurred, thick with bitterness and alcohol. We made you, Max. Everything you have is because of us. I clenched my jaw as he went on and on. You think you can just forget about us after everything we did for you? He scoffed. Well, guess what? Life doesn't work that way. You owe us. The voicemail cut off abruptly. A second later, a text popped up. Your father is very disappointed in you, Max. We need to talk. Call us. I stared at the message, my chest tight. Disappointed? They abandoned me at a bus station, disappeared from my life, and now I had disappointed them? The anger was burning hot. They hadn't changed, not one bit. I leaned back in my chair, my fingers tightening around my phone as I swallowed the lump in my throat. The part of me that was still 16, standing alone at that bus station, wanted to scream. But I wasn't 16 anymore. I wasn't lost. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't going to run this time. I opened my messages and typed out a reply to Lisa. Tomorrow, cafe on Oak Street, 7 a.m. Come alone, or don't bother. I hit send, then put my phone down and looked back out at the city. Tomorrow morning, I would see my sister for the first time in 20 years. And this time, I wasn't scared. I was already at the cafe when Lisa walked in, her eyes darting around nervously. She looked almost the same high cheekbones, same tense shoulders. But the years had added something new, a slight droop to her shoulders, lines around her mouth. She had always been the perfect daughter, the one who obeyed, who smoothed things over, who went along with everything. But now she looked like she was carrying a heavy weight. Our eyes met for a moment. Neither of us moved. Then she came over, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Hey, Max. I took a slow sip of my coffee before answering. I don't go by Max anymore. It's Alex. Her smile wavered. Right, sorry. She slid into the booth across from me, her fingers playing with a plastic-covered menu. It's been a while, she said. I didn't answer. I just watched her, waiting for the real reason she was here. She sighed, putting the menu down. You look good. I raised an eyebrow. And you look stressed. Lisa gave a small laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, well, this is complicated. No, Lisa, it's actually pretty simple. I leaned forward. You want something. Just ask. Her lips pressed together, then she exhaled. Mom and Dad, they're having a hard time. There it was. She didn't wait for me to reply. The words rushed out, practiced and rehearsed. Dad lost a lot of money on bets. Mom has a lot of credit card debt. They're really struggling, Alex. They might lose the house. I clenched my jaw, looking at her. They need help, she continued. They need you. I took a slow, deliberate breath. I don't owe them anything, Lisa. Lisa flinched. I'm not asking you to forgive them. She swallowed. I just want you to listen. My fingers tightened around my coffee cup. The nerve of it. Listen. Had anyone listened to me when I was 16, standing alone at that bus station? Had anyone listened when I was shivering in the rain because building character was more important than basic kindness? I leaned back against the booth, my stomach twisting with a mix of anger and exhaustion. They didn't just make a mistake, Lisa, I said, my voice hard. They left me at a bus station on purpose. She winced. They came back an hour later. I cut her off. And whose fault was that? The air between us felt like it could shatter. Years of silence, of unspoken words, of pretending it hadn't been that bad. Lisa blinked quickly, her fingers twisting in her lap. They thought you'd come home. They thought you'd. Her voice trailed off, breaking. They thought I'd come crawling back. I finished for her like I always did. She looked down at the table, her breathing shallow. I shook my head. I'm not their son anymore, Lisa. I haven't been for a long time. Her shoulders trembled, but I didn't soften. I reached into my pocket, pulled out some bills, and put them on the table. If they try to contact me again, I won't be this nice. Lisa stayed seated, staring at the table. I walked away without looking back. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, I threw myself into work, trying to push the conversation with Lisa out of my head. It had left a bad taste in my mouth, but I wasn't going to let it ruin my day. The past was the past, and I had built something real, something no one, not even them, could take from me. Or so I thought. A sharp knock on my office door interrupted my focus. Mia, my assistant, stood in the doorway, her face tight with a mix of worry and hesitation. Hey, I think you should see this. She came in, phone in hand, hesitating before giving it to me. I frowned and took it. The screen was open to a social media site. My breath caught as I read the words. Our son abandoned us in our old age after everything we did for him. Below it, another post. We raised him to be strong, and this is how he repays us. Heartless. I felt a slow burn of anger rise up my neck. They were making themselves out to be the victims, as if they were the ones who had suffered. There were hundreds of comments. Strangers criticizing me, people sharing the posts, some even tagging my company's page. I scrolled through the comments, my stomach churning. Wow, I can't believe some kids treat their parents like this. What a disgrace. Ungrateful brat. I hope he ends up alone. Money changes people. Shame on him. Cold-hearted fraud. I slammed the phone down on my desk. Mia shifted uncomfortably. I didn't want to show you, but it's spreading. Clients are seeing it. Some people have even left negative reviews on Apex Incorporated's page, calling you a cold-hearted fraud. My pulse raced. This wasn't just a few social media posts. It was a full-blown attack. I took a slow, deep breath, forcing my hands to stop shaking. Who else knows about this? Mia hesitated. Some of the staff, a few of our bigger clients. I think some of them are waiting to see how you respond. I nodded slowly. Okay, thanks, Mia. I'll handle it. As soon as she left, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Lisa answered on the second ring. Alex. Her voice was cautious. My grip tightened on the phone. Did you know about this? A long silence hung between us. Finally, she sighed. I told them not to, but they're desperate, Alex. I gave a humorless laugh. Desperate people don't destroy their own children. They just want help. Lisa tried to say something. They think this is the only way to get through to you. I scoffed. By lying. By turning strangers against me. Lisa didn't answer. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. I should have known better than to think they'd change. I hung up before she could say anything else. A text came through right after. "You ungrateful brat. Take that post down." I stared at the words on the screen, a slow, dangerous calm settling over me. Then I opened my own social media account and started typing. Some people rewrite history to avoid responsibility. I won't let them. I hit post and tossed my phone onto my desk. They wanted a fight? Fine. Let them have one. I thought a few social media posts were bad enough. Then they showed up at my office. It had been a long week of damage control, keeping an eye on our company's social media, reassuring clients that my personal life had nothing to do with our work, and ignoring the countless messages from distant relatives who suddenly had opinions about a story they knew nothing about. I was running on very little sleep, fueled by coffee and pure stubbornness when the intercom on my desk buzzed. "Alex." Mia's voice sounded hesitant. "There's an older couple here insisting they need to see you." I froze. The coffee in my hand suddenly tasted bitter. "Did they give their names?" I asked, even though I already knew. Mia sighed. "They said they're your parents." I exhaled sharply, forcing my face into a neutral expression. "Tell them I'm in a meeting." A pause. "Then they're making a scene." Of course they were. I put my cup down, pushed back my chair, and went to the lobby. As soon as I stepped through the doors, I saw them. Patricia was putting on a show, dabbing at fake tears with a crumpled tissue. David stood next to her, arms crossed, his eyes scanning the room like he was looking for trouble. The moment she saw him, Patricia's face crumpled. "My baby!" she wailed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You won't even talk to your own mother." I stopped walking, my jaw tight. Around us, employees whispered. A few took out their phones, recording as if it was some reality TV show happening live. I swallowed the anger rising in my throat. David's face twisted into a sneer. "You've become one of those people, huh? The kind who forgets where they came from." I didn't flinch. "Leave now." Patricia let out a choked sob, clutching her chest like she was about to collapse. "I gave birth to you, Alex. I raised you, and now you treat us like we're nothing." I clenched my fists. "You are nothing to me." A collective gasp went through the lobby. For a moment, there was silence. Then David's face turned red. "You think your money makes you better than us?" His voice was loud now, meant to get attention. Patricia dropped to her knees, actually dropped to her knees, and started crying into her hands. "All we wanted was to see you, to talk to you, but you've become so cruel." A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. Some people looked uncomfortable, others looked amused. I had had enough. I stepped forward, lowering my voice to a deadly calm. "If you don't leave right now, I will have security escort you out." David took a slow step towards me, his voice dropping to a low and angry tone. "You owe us, Alex. We made you who you are." Patricia's sobbing suddenly stopped. She looked up, her eyes gleaming with something colder than sadness. "You can't erase us, sweetheart. You'll always be our son." I exhaled sharply, then turned to the security guard standing nearby. "Please escort them out." David gave a bitter laugh. "You're going to regret this." Patricia stood up, smoothing her dress like nothing had happened. "Poor thing," she murmured, just loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Too much money, not enough heart." I watched as security led them out, their voices echoing through the glass doors. I should have known they weren't finished. This was just the start. The next day, I got a letter from a lawyer. Mia put the thick envelope on my desk, her eyebrows furrowed. "This came by courier. It's from a law firm." I didn't move right away. I just stared at it, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. Another escalation, another attempt to pull me back into the mess I had spent years escaping. Slowly, I picked it up, tearing the top open. As soon as my eyes scanned the first few lines, my heart started racing. My parents were filing a legal claim against me based on laws about family responsibility. I gave a short, bitter laugh. Unbelievable. They were actually trying to legally force me, to support them financially. The same people who had left me at a bus station at 16, who had ignored me for 2 decades, were now demanding that I pay for their mistakes. I dropped the letter on my desk and pinched the bridge of my nose. Mia hovered near the doorway. "Are you okay?" I exhaled through my nose. "Call Mr. Smith. I need to talk to my lawyer." She nodded and left. Minutes later, I was pacing my office, phone pressed to my ear as Mr. Smith's calm voice came through. "Well," he said after I finished reading him the letter, "technically, in some states, they might have a case." I stopped pacing. "You're telling me they can abandon me as a kid, but now I owe them money?" He sighed. "It's rare, but some courts do uphold these kinds of cases, depending on the details. Oregon doesn't have strict laws about this, but if they push hard enough, they could still make things difficult for you." I pressed a hand to my forehead. "Unbelievable." "They're hoping you'll settle," Mr. Smith said, "that you'll just give them what they want so they don't drag your name through a long court battle." I laughed bitterly. "Then they don't know me at all." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I almost ignored it, but something inside me snapped, and before I could stop myself, I hit accept. "What do you want?" My voice was flat. Patricia's voice came through, overly sweet. "Alex, honey, we just want to work something out. We wouldn't have to do this if you'd just help us." I clenched my jaw. "Help you?" My voice was cold. "After what you did to me?" She gave a dramatic sigh, like I was being unreasonable. "Honey, that was so long ago. Families argue. Parents make mistakes. But we're still your parents, and we're in trouble." I felt my grip tighten on the phone. "You're not my parents. You lost that right the day you drove away." There was a pause. Then her voice hardened. "If you fight us, we'll take this all the way to court. Do you really want that embarrassment?" I almost laughed at the irony. She thought she could threaten me with embarrassment. I felt my anger turn into something sharp, something unbreakable. "Try me," I said, my voice steady. Then I hung up. I stood there for a long moment, my heartbeat steady, not from fear, but from anger. They thought they could break me. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Then they went after my business. I should have expected it. After the lawsuit, after the social media spectacle, after every desperate attempt to claw their way back into my life, of course, they wouldn't stop there. But knowing something is coming doesn't make it hurt any less when it finally arrives. I was at my desk, looking through paperwork, when Mia knocked and peeked in, her expression worried. "You might want to check your email," she said carefully. I raised an eyebrow but picked up my phone. The moment I saw the subject line, my stomach twisted. "Concerns regarding your conduct." I clicked the email open. "Alex, I hope this isn't true, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. We've received several anonymous messages claiming you have a history of financial misconduct, particularly in your dealings with your family. They allege you stole money, neglected your responsibilities, and have a history of dishonesty. We value our professional relationship, but given the nature of these claims, we need some clarification." The sender was one of our biggest investors. I scrolled further down, my heart pounding. Attached were screenshots of emails from fake accounts, all saying the same thing: that I had stolen money from my own parents, that I had built my company on their sacrifices, that I was nothing but a liar, a fraud. I exhaled sharply and tossed my phone onto my desk, my hands clenching into fists. Mia hovered near the door. "What's happening?" I forced myself to take a slow breath. "They're trying to destroy me." Her brow furrowed. "Who?" I grabbed my phone and started dialing. "Who do you think?" 15 minutes later, I was on the phone with one of my business partners. He hesitated before speaking. "Look, Alex, I don't want to believe this, but these messages, there are a lot of them. Do you know where they're coming from?" I asked, my voice tight. Silence. Then, reluctantly, some of the accounts were traced back to an IP address linked to your parents. I closed my eyes, gripping the edge of my desk. They had crossed a line. For years, They had tried to control me with guilt. When that didn't work, they tried to humiliate me publicly. And now, they were coming for everything I had built. They had made a mistake because this was war. I called an emergency meeting with my PR team. They sat across from me, their faces serious. One of them cleared his throat. Our recommendation: don't respond publicly. Stay quiet. Let this die down. No, I said firmly. I'm not staying quiet. Not this time. I turned to my laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I wrote my own statement. For years, I suffered at the hands of manipulative parents. When I left, it was to protect myself. Now, after 20 years, they are trying to destroy my livelihood. I will not let them. I hit post. Let them come for me. I wasn't scared anymore. Hours later, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from David. You ungrateful brat. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing a final message. If you continue this, I will take legal action. This is your last chance. I hit send. No response. But I knew they wouldn't stop. They wanted war? Fine. I'd give them one. The next day, I received a court summons. Mia walked into my office, her face pale as she put a thick envelope on my desk. It's from a law firm, she said carefully. I already knew who it was from. I took the envelope, tearing it open with slow, deliberate movements. The bold official text at the top confirmed my suspicions. David and Patricia Thompson versus Alex Thompson. The grounds: neglecting family responsibilities under state law. A bitter laugh escaped me. So this was their final move. When emotional blackmail, public humiliation, and direct sabotage hadn't worked, they turned to the legal system. Mia lingered in the doorway. What do you want to do? I exhaled sharply and reached for my phone. Call Mr. Smith. Tell him I'm on my way. Mr. Smith sat across from me in his office, the lawsuit spread out on the polished wooden desk between us. He skimmed the pages, shaking his head. They have a weak case, he said finally, looking up. Oregon doesn't strictly enforce these kinds of laws, but if they get enough publicity, it could hurt your business. I clenched my fists. Then we make it public. On our terms. Mr. Smith raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about that? I nodded, my mind made up. I've been on the defensive for too long. It's time for people to know exactly who they are. That night, I wrote my statement. I didn't hold back. I told the truth, the whole truth, about my parents, about the lessons they forced on me, about the night they left me at a bus station at 16 and never looked back, about how they only reappeared when they needed something. By morning, the post had gone viral. The public opinion shifted almost immediately. The same strangers who had once criticized me for being ungrateful were now disgusted by my parents' actions. Comments flooded in, filled with anger on my behalf. This is beyond cruel. What kind of parents abandon their own child and then try to get money from them 20 years later? I believed them at first, but now they deserve whatever happens to them. Suing your own kid after leaving them homeless? Unbelievable. The change in public opinion was fast. They had lost control of the story. 3 days later, Lisa called me, her voice strained, barely a whisper. They lost everything, Alex. I sat in my car, looking at the city skyline. That's on them. She took a shaky breath. They're saying it's your fault. Of course, they were. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. No, Lisa. It's their fault. Every choice they made led them to this point. For once, she didn't argue. A week later, I drove past my childhood home. A for sale sign was in the yard. The place looked smaller than I remembered, almost lifeless. I expected to feel some kind of victory, some kind of triumph, but all I felt was relief. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need their approval. They no longer had any power over me, and that was enough. For the first time in 20 years, I finally felt free. No weight on my shoulders, no knot in my stomach, no lingering fear of when they would show up next, trying to drag me back into the past I had fought so hard to escape. I was home. Portland stretched out beneath my balcony, bathed in the golden light of the evening. A warm breeze touched my skin as I sat with my legs tucked under me, a glass of wine in my hand. The chaos had finally quieted down, leaving only silence. But even peace, it seemed, had one last test. A knock at my door broke the quiet. I knew even before I stood up who it was. I opened it to find Lisa, her eyes swollen, her face exhausted. "Alex," her voice cracked. "Please." I didn't move. "They have nowhere to go," she whispered. "Dad's drinking more than ever. Mom keeps saying they just need one more chance. They're still our parents." I gripped the doorframe, my heart heavy. She still didn't understand. "They made their choice," I said evenly. Lisa's face crumpled. "How can you be so what?" I cut her off, my voice cold. "Heartless? Selfish?" Tears spilled over her lashes. "I just don't want to lose my brother over this." I took a sharp breath, my throat tight. "You didn't lose me," I said quietly. "They did." Lisa let out a choked sob, her hands trembling as she wiped her face. "They just need." I shook my head. "I'm not responsible for fixing what they broke." Her shoulders slumped. I swallowed the lump in my throat and stepped back. "Take care of yourself, Lisa." Then I closed the door. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. An hour later, I sat on my balcony again, watching the sun sink below the skyline. For years, their voices had echoed in my head, shaping my decisions even when they weren't around. The guilt, the shame, the what-ifs. But now, just silence. And it was beautiful. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I reached Aunt Laura, the only real family I had ever had. I typed a message, "Dinner this weekend? My treat." Her reply came almost instantly. "Finally! I've been waiting for you to ask. Mexican or Italian?" A small smile touched my lips. "Mexican. Extra margaritas." I took a deep breath, then went to my call log. My parents' numbers stared back at me like ghosts refusing to rest. Slowly, I hit block. No more second chances, no more manipulations, no more guilt. I walked inside and closed the door behind me. I wasn't running anymore. I was free.